Today we're visiting the President James K. Polk State Historic Site in Pineville, North Carolina, the birthplace of America's 11th president. While the site commemorates the life and legacy of James K. Polk, there's a much broader story to uncover here, one that stretches far beyond politics. We'll explore the diverse layers of history embedded in this land, from indigenous trading paths, log cabins and gardens, and the Polk's family property, including the enslaved individuals who once lived on this land. The next video will be about the Polk family cemetery, so to make sure you don't miss it, make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you know when the video drops. All right, let's roll. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of History Before Us, and I'm at another historic site. This time it is the birthplace of the 11th President of the United States of America, James K. Polk. Now, this site is also very special to me because I'm a board member here at the James K. Polk site, and we do a lot of amazing work. And one of the things that I love to highlight is just the diversity that's here at this site as it relates to the indigenous folks. There's a trading path that's close to the site. There's actually a greenway trail that's here as well that was newly installed, I want to say maybe 2 years ago when that took place, and that's here for Mecklenburg County, and it spans for miles. There's some indigenous history here. There's African-American history here, as well as presidential history here as well. There's gardens, there's outbuildings, and there's actually a museum, and that's right here behind me. So we're going to explore a lot of different things today, but we are going to start with one of our volunteers. And if you don't mind introducing yourself, please, and tell us what we're about to tour.
Okay, so hi, I'm Michelle Glover. I've been here since 2010, volunteering. This is the actual birthplace of the 11th president. He was born here in 1795. His parents, Samuel and Jane Knox Polk, married in 1794. Their wedding present, 150 acres. We have 21 of those. Some household furnishings, 2 enslaved individuals, Lucy and Violet, who are 8 and 10 years old.
Wow.
So what we're going to do actually is we're going to go into the kitchen house and talk about the enslaved and talk about the Native American history.
That sounds like a plan. Let's go to it. So you've been here for 6 to 7 years volunteering. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did you get started?
I moved here from Western Carolina University.
Nice.
And at the museum there, their director knew Scott and told me that this was the best place to volunteer, and he was right.
That's good. That's good. And hopefully not too many people that you are connected with in Western North Carolina were affected by the floods and the hurricane?
No, Western Carolina and Jackson County were spared, and they were all very, very grateful.
Most definitely.
Lost electricity and internet for a little bit, but nothing like the Asheville area and Black Mountain.
Nice.
Okay.
So this is, I like to call it like the center of where the action happens with programming and things like that. There's a garden that's over there. We'll discuss that. But these are the cabins. Can you give us some details about what we're about to experience with these?
So the main cabin is back there. Samuel and Jane, this would have been their first home. It was done by what is called a barn raising. All the raw materials were collected. Then the house was constructed. Samuel was slightly wealthy, so it does have 2 rooms, although the second room was an addition just before they moved. The front of the house, you will see that there are windows in it, and that has to do with the trading path that Fred was talking about. People can see the house from the trading path because that was how you got into Charlotte proper. And glass was very unusual in the backcountry. So Samuel spent money to put glass in his house when he's in the backcountry, and the question is why? All the people could see it. But the funny thing is, there are no windows on the back of the house and the far end of the house because you can't see that from the trading path. So he was showing off, but he was showing off responsibly.
And so if you all can see, like, there's a road, you may see some cars going back there. That was the trading path. And that was for the Catawba Indians.
So originally a big game path.
Okay, it was a game path originally.
The greenway that you were talking about is, the real name of it is Shugaw Creek, S-U-G-A-W, named for the native people who were here. But as more of the game path was big animals were going down because Chagall Creek was the only fresh water. Native Americans make it a footpath. By the 1750s, it becomes part of the Great Wagon Road out of Philadelphia.
Yeah. And that expands all the way down to South Carolina.
That expands all the way down to South Carolina. But Chagall Creek lost its name of Chagall as more Europeans came. They didn't know who the Chagall were because by the 1790s, that tribe had been completely decimated. The few remaining Chagall were absorbed into the Catawba, right, who were still here in 1790 and 1800. And the Europeans were just like, okay, Chagall doesn't make sense, we'll call it Sugar
Creek.
So Little Sugar Creek.
And so if you are in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, you should definitely know Sugar Creek because it is a road that a lot of people travel. It's not too far from where I live, so you see the influence of European influence in changing that initial name, which would be those folks, right, to Sugar Creek, right?
Right.
So now there's some education for you that if you see Sugar Creek, you know that it was originally because of the Chagall folks that were here in Mecklenburg County. So thanks for sharing that history.
The name Chagall still exists in a very few minor instances. Apparently there is a Chagall Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
So
locally?
It's nice locally. So hopefully there is some remnant of those people.
Most definitely. All right, let's take a look.
All right.
Into these
going
cabins.
Into the kitchen house.
Yep, going into the kitchen house. I did a sleepover here with the Slave Dwelling Project, and it was very cold that night. Joseph McGill, as well as a couple of other folks, we were cram-packed in here, sleeping right here is where I slept, right here. Right here, y'all. And there were bodies all on the floor here, so. Love the fresh smell of old buildings.
Oh, I tell you.
And so this is the other side, you all. All right, give us the rundown.
Okay, so this is where the enslaved lived. All right. Remember Lucy and Violet, 8 and 10 years old, and they would have been in this house. They would not have been in the main house. The fire in the fireplace goes 24/7, 365. So these two little girls have to make sure the fire doesn't go out. Jane is over here teaching them how to cook, clean, work in the garden, do the laundry, all the chores that need to be done to keep a farm going.
Yeah.
And again, these are little girls, but they grow up here. Mm-hmm. Samuel is a surveyor. By the time they moved to Tennessee in 1806, he has over 420 acres.
And Samuel would be James K. Polk's father.
James K. Polk's father,
okay.
Samuel Polk. We know only from property records that Samuel purchased 2 more individuals. 420 acres, he needs additional help.
Sure.
We have a book that is very complicated to read called Slave Master President, and it looks at Samuel Polk's and James K. Polk's relationship with the enslaved. One of the takeaways from that book is that neither man ever purchased adults. They purchased children and young people, which in 1800, a young person would have been what we would call a teenager today. So we know that he purchased 2 more individuals. Mm-hmm. We don't know their name. We don't know their age. We don't know their sex because they were just, air quotes, enslaved.
Now, as it relates to the type of work that they were responsible for and that the Polks were engaged in here in the area, was it solely agricultural or were there other elements as well?
It was agricultural. We know that Samuel grew cotton and tobacco. He also grew wheat and corn. So all of those are fairly labor-intensive crops. It's actually more work than just Samuel and these 2, hopefully teenage males. I say hopefully only because I don't want to think of him as being an 8-year-old kid out there trying to do this kind of work. One of the traditions from the 1800s is that you loaned your enslaved back and forth. Right. So at harvest time, someone would have loaned some individuals to Samuel for a day's work, and he would have in turn traded labor with another farmer. Mm-hmm. But going back to these 2 enslaved, we know that Elias was born here. Samuel recorded that, simply that an enslaved child was born. named Elias. He doesn't bother to tell us who the mother is or who the father is. We assume, and we don't know, teenage males, we hope that a family unit was formed and either Lucy or Violet and one of these enslaved individuals created Elias, but we don't know.
Right.
I'm going to pause and address the white elephant in the room. Elias was given to James and Sarah Childers when they married in the 1820s, and Elias does not become free until the 13th Amendment, the Emancipation. He goes on to have his own political career, and the reason I point that out is there are photographs of Elias. In the photographs, he doesn't appear biracial. So in my heart of hearts, I hope Samuel is not the father,
Right.
but we don't know.
This is true.
That's true. They all would have had the surname Polk.
Okay.
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 One of the other things that I want to talk about here in the kitchen house is the exchange of technology between the Native Americans and the Polks. So first of all, using gourds is something that the Native Americans would have used. This is a gourd, a dried plant. Just for the record, it is never used for liquids because it's a dried plant. So this is for dry scooping.
Okay.
Also storage of anything dry. You simply never put liquids in a gourd.
Gotcha.
All right, Native Americans knew that. But the best thing is this. This is a fish trap. So some of the Shaga or the Catawba who were around here would have taught the Polk children how to use the fish trap. You place this down in Little Shaga Creek. A fish will swim in. If you don't know, fish don't back up, so now they're trapped.
Yep.
And when the children are going down to Little Shaga Creek to get water for the family, they also have to check the fish trap. You just, if there's a fish in here, you pull it out, you hook it under the gills, and you bring it up when you're bringing up the water.
And a lot of people don't know just, you said technology, right?
Technology.
And I guess for us, you know, who've grown up with all these different things that takes batteries and can be charged and things like that, our ideology of technology is completely different than what it was in the past or what have you. But even this right here, this would be, I know, but I want you to tell the folks, of course.
This is a mop.
Yep.
Okay. Using natural resources.
Yep.
All right. So this is a corn husk. Corn husks are used to stuff mattress, for little girls to make toys, or for a mop. You always have extra corn husks, and when these wear out, you simply get more corn husks. So
nothing went to waste.
Nothing went to waste.
That's for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing went to waste.
And of course, the primary users of this would have been Lucy and Violet.
Absolutely.
What Lucy and Violet are responsible for is all the cooking. It's called hearth cooking. So you keep a fire going, but it's not a rip-roaring fire. You wait till the logs burn down into the break-apart stage or coal stage. You take a shovel full of coals. You place those on the hearth here. And they're literally called burners, just like we have. So all of the cookware is up on feet. All right, because they're placed over a burner.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing that is intriguing to me is they don't have an oven, a separate structure that is an oven, brick oven, think brick oven pizza. Sure. Rich people had that, the Polks didn't, so they're using a cast iron Dutch oven. So you set it over coals, you fill the top with those coals, and that's where you do your baking. Your cakes, pies, or bread, whatever.
Now, I've been in some places to where the kitchens also served as the living quarters for some of the enslaved individuals. So what about at this site?
One of the things I want you to notice is there are no beds here.
This is true.
So the enslaved would have slept on a pallet, which is simply a quilt folded in two. So it can be rolled up and put out of the way because this is the workspace. So yes, they would have slept here on the floor. All of their work is done in this area. All of the food preparation, the bread making, candle making, anything like that.
Nice. Okay. Very multidimensional.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, and this would be a rake?
That would be a rake, again, using native materials. Okay, just split wood for that.
And as it relates to any type of circulation in the house, I know that at certain sites, like it was very intentional, like how the window structures were set up, specifically like for the summertime to catch different breezes. Was this cabin set up in that way, shape, or form?
It's interesting to me because this is the enslaved cabin and the main house. They actually sit perpendicular.
Okay.
All right. But both houses, if there is any breeze, get a breeze.
Okay.
Even in the hot summertime. It's a little cool in here today.
Yeah.
Their only light is going to be from the windows and the open doors. So in wintertime, having that fire in there was nice for Lucy and Violet.
Yeah.
In summertime, they would have been a little toasty.
Okay.
Again, using natural resources. So you have to you bank your coals at night, just like everybody knows how to do that. And you have to get them going in the morning. So we have here a real, genuine, not plastic, not from Amazon, turkey feather. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're using that to get the coals going. And I assume in August, they're using, this to fan themselves when they're cooking. The other thing I want to show you, this chair is very short. And we don't know whether Lucy or Violet cut the legs off or whether it was made that way. But if you're cooking on the hearth, you sit in a low chair because it saves your back. Anything that would help that. So
most definitely. And obviously this is more storage.
Storage,
looks like.
yes.
And then over here are the tools.
Right.
There's your various different things. Would this be considered a spatula?
Absolutely. I mean, things don't really change over much.
They don't. They just get bigger because we get hungrier.
Yep.
And eat a whole lot more.
Eat a whole lot more. The pottery is all the orange color, and this is definitely Catawba made. All right, so again, the exchange of technology, of implements. The Catawba would have wanted some of the iron stuff, and they might have traded or bartered or actually sold their pottery to get European goods. Gotcha. The Catawba are famous for their orangeware.
Yeah, and we'll explore that on a panel here shortly. So we're ready to move into the other house?
Yes, we are.
Let's rock and roll.
Okay, I need to lock up.
Upstairs, I know we can't go up there, but that would have been potentially a place also where people...
Storage, possibly people sleeping up there.
Okay.
But somebody has to be downstairs to make sure the fire...
And you have to watch that 24/7.
Right.
Right, okay.
I gotta lock up.
Yeah. Take your time.
I gotta lock up.
So. All right, that was the first cabin. And we're going to move over into the next cabin. I wanted to show you all again the landscape around here. And the Greenway Trail runs right there. But this is the site. And we're going to get some information about the garden here shortly. But as she locks this one up, we will move over next door to this one. And was that just like a barn?
It is called a pack house.
Okay.
You'll notice there's none of the orange chinking in there, the clay.
Okay.
Two of the crops that Samuel grew, both the cotton and tobacco, needs the air to circulate. So that's why there is no chinking in there, lets the air in. The children were in charge of the farm animals. They were all free range.
Okay. We need some free range chickens right now so we can get more
eggs.
You
go. Also, the brick would probably have been made from the enslaved at Brattonsville.
Okay.
Because they were brick makers.
Okay. Brattonsville is another historic site, you all. That's in York County, South Carolina. All right. Ooh, that wind is tough.
That wind is tough.
All right, so talk to us.
So this is the main house. We're going to ignore that addition for a few minutes. When Samuel and Jane got married, James K. Polk was the oldest. While they were here, Jane has 5 children in 11 years. And then, God love her, when they go to Tennessee, she's got 5 more. So 10 little Polks. They all live to adulthood. But for the most part, the family is going to live in just this single room. All right. So you've got the parents' bedroom, kids' bedroom. Stop it. Indoor plumbing, I always point that out to people. That would have been a kid's chore.
Yeah.
Right? A cool thing, so the Polks would not have had a lawn. Lawnmowers and lawns are a fairly new invention. So the slop from the indoor toilet would have just been dumped in the dirt in the front yard.
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer. But not really. That mess is going to attract insects. That's chicken food, because we haven't invented Ace Hardware, and we haven't invented chicken feed.
Yeah.
So everything is used.
Everything.
Everything is used.
Everything.
We do have the dining room is right here. That table pulls out, and at least 7 individuals can eat there. The enslaved did not eat there. They would have eaten after the Polks had eaten, but they would have eaten in the kitchen house. So prepared food is brought over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Nursery is here. Samuel's office is right here. Yeah, again, he grows cotton.
Yep.
Adult entertainment center. Let me show you that. He dabbles in politics. He sells crops, and he is a surveyor. He also has adult beverages. We know they made peach brandy. They would have had a still and hard cider. So I call this the adult entertainment center. It's their bar set.
There you go. Wow.
The addition comes because of the trading path, which is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Travel time in 1800, a horse and wagon goes about 10 miles a day. We're not doing the Preakness, all right? Charlotte is 12 miles by the trading path.
Okay.
So you're going to need to spend the night. If Samuel's trying to make a good business deal, you don't want that customer to have to sleep with his head right next to the indoor plumbing.
This is true.
So Samuel puts an addition. Right?
Okay.
So it literally is 2 beds and your very own private door.
As you see, you all, no TVs, no Netflix. Just the basics, just the things that you need.
Just the basics, yeah.
And so the filler of the mattresses would be
corn husks
any
or
straw,
straw.
or horsehair.
Not horsehair so much,
No?
but definitely straw. So sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite.
Yeah.
Right? The ropes that are holding our mattress are hemp. Don't get excited, not what you smoke, okay? It's ship rigging, but rope gives.
Yeah.
So on Saturday night before church on Sunday, 2 people would get in and they would retie the entire bed so that the ropes were tight.
Okay.
Bed bugs, if you're using plant material has little wildlife in it. The Polks would have had to deal with lice, fleas, ticks, chiggers, and bed bugs. Lots of blood-sucking things.
All the bad things.
Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite.
Absolutely. And this is the window, you all. So
Right.
you wake up in the morning and you pull the windows back.
The curtains back. The window does not
Pull
open.
the curtains back, rather.
Yeah.
The
window doesn't open. It was just to show off.
Yeah. This would be the view. So, golly, and you have to be so careful with this because look at how tiny it is. Versus now we got the iron stuff. And we just yank and pull things. And now there is an upstairs. What would that be for? Storage?
For the most part, it's storage. We know that Jane had a spinning wheel, and that lives upstairs because a spinning wheel takes up an awful lot of floor space. There's a small fireplace and some wrought iron beds up there. They aren't designed for sleeping because we don't have mattresses on them. The enslaved would never sleep in here. If Jane needed somebody overnight, they would have slept on a pallet. They would not have slept in one of the beds.
Okay. Did the Polks ever, after leaving here, did they ever, in any type of communication or any of the books, discuss North Carolina?
We know that James never came back. He did go to Chapel Hill, but he never returned to Pineville. And the best that we can figure out, this place, once it's sold, just kind of disappears from their family history and memories.
And who purchased?
It was purchased a whole bunch of different people between...
Because that was a lot of acres. You said over 130 acres, right?
Well, 150 to begin with,
and now it's 21
420 When they moved to Tennessee,
Wow, okay.
all right, we have 21 of those original acres.
And they moved to Columbia.
They moved to the
Tennessee.
Columbia, Tennessee area.
And there's still a home that's there.
Yes.
Historic site.
And interestingly, it was only in 1806, but that house is much fancier than this one. This is a backcountry log cabin. Okay? But when Samuel sold his land, he sold it for cash. So when they got to Tennessee, to join extended family, he is cash rich.
Yeah.
And they built a much nicer house.
Right. Yeah, I've seen it before. Most definitely. This right here.
Yes.
This is not in the other building, but it is here. What is this?
Okay, first of all, it's not a popcorn maker. It's a bed warmer.
Okay.
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 So you fill it with some of the coals from the fireplace and you slide it between the sheets and it warms up the sheets, and then you put that back in the fire as quick as you can, and you jump in bed when the sheets are still warm.
So we could use that today because
We
it's quite
could.
It's quite chilly.
Everyone did wear hats. If you watch Little House on the Prairie, they always have hats on. So being from Vermont, there's an adage, if your feet are cold, put on a hat. You lose something like 60 to 70% of your body heat through your head. So on cold winter nights, you still wore some sort of cap on your head to stay warm, because you don't have a rip-roaring fire going all night long.
Most definitely. And you all know, seeing me in these videos during the winter, I'm always with my hat on my head.
Yes, definitely.
Because I don't have any hair, and I haven't had any in a long time. So I know that this is your wheelhouse as it relates to the cabins and the house tour, and we're going to do the garden next. But I just want, if you don't mind, just telling people, how important is it for us to preserve these spaces, not only just for history enthusiasts, but for future generations that may not necessarily be even interested in it, but can tap into these sites and see how the past does connect with what's happening today?
The past absolutely connects to today. First of all, when you go into your kitchen, you may still use a Dutch oven. That technology is hundreds of years old.
And cast iron skillets.
And cast iron is too.
Yeah.
All right, that comes from the Roman times. But you need to know your roots. You need to know where you came from. You need to know your own heritage, and you get a glimpse of this. I cannot tell you how many visitors come who are my age and say, wow, my grandparents lived in a house just like this.
Yeah.
Because they would have been in the late 1800s or early 1900s. So it's something that is so important for knowing who you are.
Absolutely. Most definitely. Well, thank you. We're going to move on to the next person so
All
we
right.
can get some more information.
Okay,
Cool.
sounds good.
All right, folks, so that was the inside of the cabins. Now we're outside, and I'm here with an employee of the site, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, and we will discuss what we're doing now.
Yeah, I'm Susie. I'm a historic interpreter here. I've been here since June. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Catawba's relation to the site, as well as the kitchen garden and the different people that would have tended to that.
Sounds good.
So this is the Catawba wayside that we have. This was actually completed fairly recently. It was put up, I think it might have been changed at some point. It is fairly recent, but essentially this kind of just recognizes the Catawba's history here. The Catawba they existed on this land long before the Polks did, and we just try to acknowledge that in our tours, but also have a space for them to kind of tell their story. And we're actually having a Catawba pottery demonstration, or an event in April, early April, I think it's April 5th.
Nice.
And they're going to come, it's two siblings from the Catawba Nation, and they're talking about, one does pottery, one does basket weaving.
Okay.
So they're going to, I think, bring a couple things and just talk about what they do.
Sweet. That's what's up.
Yeah.
All right, let's check out your wheelhouse. Now, where are we going next?
So this is the kitchen garden.
Okay.
I've been working on a virtual program for kids to, so we will be able to zoom into classrooms and present our information on the kitchen garden in a virtual format. And it also has like some educational activities related that the kids can do in their classes with their teachers.
Yeah. I feel like right now also, like this is a very timely time to introduce kids to gardening just because of the fact that with inflation being what it is and groceries costing so high, vegetables and other things that, you know, if you're able to save a couple dollars by doing it
Absolutely.
yourself, and if you're able to start at a young age, that this would be a really good opportunity for them to gain that type of skill. So shout out
Yeah,
to you all for doing that.
definitely. So we have a couple plants on the outside. There used to be some like trees there. I think there's a persimmon tree,
Uh-huh.
and I think there was an apple tree a long time ago. They were replanting it. I think it died.
Okay.
But essentially, this is a kind of a typical backcountry kitchen garden. I'll take you in. A lot of things are dead right now, but I'm trying to find the ones that are like alive right now.
This parsley definitely
Parsley
looks
is
good.
edible, yes. So a lot of this would have been used for cooking purposes, but some of it would have also been used medicinally. People back then used plants for kind of all types of things. They used it for their homes
Yep.
and as like kind of a this was an early medicine cabinet as well.
Nice. Now, I use this a lot. Clearly, it's all dead right now.
Yeah.
But oregano right there, and horseradish is right here.
Rosemary was a now we know rosemary as like an essential oil.
Right.
But back then, this was one of the plants that would have been used for kind of its smell. So this would have been strewn on, kind of thrown onto floors and swept up, and that made the home smell good.
Okay.
It's also associated with memory, so there's kind of like, I guess, folklore that people used it on their wedding day to remember their vows.
Wow.
So it does have like kind of medicinal purposes, but it was used for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I didn't know it had all of that. I just use it to make my chicken smell and taste good.
Yeah. The virtual program, I'm trying to kind of focus more on telling kids the difference between the culinary and medicinal plants. There's a lot of overlap, so plants would have been used for kind of different purposes, like multi-purpose. Each plant was kind of had dual function.
Okay.
I'm also trying to focus on the ways in which the enslaved would have had separate kitchen gardens for their own use. The enslaved would have had to be responsible for tending to the family using these plants, but they probably wouldn't have. They were also responsible for tending to their own community.
Yeah. I think that's something that some folks may miss, is that on some plantation sites, the enslaved folks were granted, their own space to have gardens, right? But in another way, for me, it's kind of like, that's great, of course, because you need sustenance, right? But then it also allowed them to continue to hone their skills to provide the best ingredients for their enslaver as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like, It
wasn't for like a good.
Yeah, like it's dual purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course, it helps with them being able to keep cultural traditions and things like that, and also to feed themselves. But then you also know that
the investment was
right.
Really,
It was most definitely. Did the Polks discuss anything as it relates to things that they may have taken with them from the garden to Tennessee on the journey?
They probably would have brought certain things over. Everything in here is what we would call an heirloom plant, so that's pretty similar to what the Polks would have had. We try to stick to heirloom varieties, but in some cases, like, we just use modern plants.
Gotcha.
But in here would have been, like, things like strawberries, onions maybe, and then just like these, what we have in here now is mostly medicinal. So it would have been a variety of things. But yeah, a lot of it came from the plants that the Polks would have had would have been some native to America that the Europeans would have brought over, but some was also brought over from Africa, and some was brought from, or indigenous to the native Americans. Yeah, the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash, that was indigenous to the Catawba among many tribes. But that's one that kind of was a big means of sustenance for the Polk family, and that was kind of adopted from the Catawba. So a lot of these plants would have been taken from different communities and used to sustain the Polks.
So when do you expect everything to be back full bloom around here? When is your expected date? Did you look at the Farmer's Almanac?
Yeah, probably over the summer things get a little bit more kept up.
Yeah.
But the Charlotte herb guild is back in the garden now, so
Okay.
they are working on it. There's a few things that are, living, but mostly the garden's going to be kind of in full bloom over the summer. And over the summer we'll do, I think in April we plant cotton and corn.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry, cotton and tobacco over here.
Okay.
So that's going to be in those plots.
And those were things that would have been on the site while the Polks were here.
Yeah, those were kind of more to represent where they would have been, like the agricultural fields. That was like two of the main cash crops that Samuel had.
Right.
So that's kind of what that represents. It's a little bit further away. It wouldn't have been like right there.
Right here,
Yeah.
right. But within the 400 acres.
Yeah.
For sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's up. Thank you for showing us this place that right now isn't the liveliest, but will be soon after this cold spell goes past us, which is hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah.
As it relates to just the importance of knowing how different herbs and things like that are to just human existence, like what are some takeaways that you feel people should put in consideration when we look at plants, as perhaps just not looking at it as a plant, but as a means of survival at one point from a historical perspective? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing to recognize when looking at any backcountry kitchen garden, or any kitchen garden that you'll go to at any historic site, the family that used it would have taken most of the plants, or at least a few, from those other communities, like the enslaved and like if there's indigenous tribes. And also I try to emphasize to kids, or one of my main points is that these plants were used for very various purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought using it for their homes was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And also recognizing that the families that used these gardens wouldn't have had a lot of knowledge on them as they were using it. It was a lot of
Trial and error?
Yeah, trial and error. So a lot of the plants that they had for medicinal purposes actually made them sicker, just because they didn't know. Like there's a couple in, we don't have any now, but I have a few in my my virtual program that talk about, like, they're actually toxic, but they were thought to be for healing.
Wow.
So that's
Not so much though.
Yeah, no.
So you got to be careful out there, you all.
We definitely don't recommend using any of these for medicinal purposes.
So don't go willy-nilly
Disclaimer.
just thinking that it's all good, because it may not be, for sure.
Do your
Well,
research.
that is good. So we just saw the garden portion, and I'm just going to briefly walk through the cemetery that's here on site. I don't know much about it, but I'm just going to show you all, and that's going to wrap it up for today. So if you like what you're seeing so far, please make sure to subscribe and share.